You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
The Red Moon Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian. And he is not here this week. Mr. Cheatham is taking the week off. He's being lazy. He didn't want to come tonight. He said, "You do the show. I don't feel like it."
Yeah, he's faking sick.
He's faking it just to get out of coming and doing the show.
Well, he also had a little bit of one of those like home emergency kind of things that we all have to go through as homeowners.
Oh gosh,
You know those things?
Keith actually is really he's I think he's under the weather because it's more of a head cold, like allergies.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like he's actually sick. He's not caught COVID.
Nope.
That's gone. That's long gone. But yeah, you're right, Sean. You alluded to there's actually, and then other crap hit the fan. He was dealing with his head cold, and then more crap hit the fan.
And now the fan's not turning, and he has no air conditioning.
That's so true. Yeah, his AC, right in the thick of summer, starting to get into the hot months. It's just going to get worse from here.
Yeah.
And his AC decides to just crap the bed.
But, he's got good parents that are old, but they still come to help. And
good
come to the
neighbors, too.
rescue.
Not State Farm.
Nope, no khakis.
No khakis.
Nope. But I think he'll be okay.
I think he will be, too.
Fork out a little bit of cash. It sucks.
It's
but
not a whole
one of
lot.
those things.
We're
No.
hoping.
No, thank God it's not. And they're saying there's some rain coming, so that might kind of
That'll cool
things
down.
off a little bit.
Yeah. It's
But-
just what I've noticed and I've hated in the last couple of days has been sticky, been hot.
It's been hot.
Nasty,
Yeah.
humid. But that's the thing I hate about summers if you don't have that air to.
We're spoiled.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, seriously.
We really are.
Me and Brian ran over to his house to bring him some food real quick, and when we got back, we were outside talking to him, and we got back in my van, and I left it running in the driveway because we weren't going to be there for but a few minutes. We jumped back in the van, and it's like 70 degrees, and the air's blowing, and we both just went, oh.
It's like, Keith,
man,
come on over here, feel
you
this for a little
can't
bit.
even like be outside for a few minutes.
Well, you said so his parents, while they're waiting to get the part,
Uh-huh.
because obviously they can't get it tonight.
Yeah.
But you said his parents brought him a window unit.
They brought him like one of those portable roll around inside ones.
Okay. So he doesn't have to put it in
Yeah,
his
he's
window.
gonna-
Oh, that's good.
I think it vents out the window
Okay.
with a hose.
That makes sense.
Kind of like
Okay.
the thing that we rigged up one year in here.
Oh gosh,
So
that was
much
god awful.
nicer. But yeah, he's
was terrible.
And this is what I think is so cool. He's like, I would be putting that sucker in my bedroom, right?
Yes,
He's putting it in his office
So he can
that he
work.
can work comfortably.
that's insane.
That's the perfect work ethic.
That's right.
Ethic.
Hey, if you're listening,
Ethic.
I don't want to name drop your all's employer. Y'all actually work for the same company.
yeah.
But I will say that, hey, give the guy a raise. Come on, he's busting.
That's right.
He's working in hot. No, I mean, you all said it was like 90 degrees in his office. That's what he told you.
That's what he said.
That's insane. 90
Yeah.
degrees, the man's slaving away.
I know. His glasses are in there fogging up. How's he supposed to see?
I'm just sitting there. I'm thinking of Airplane when he's sweating and it's just like buckets pouring
Yeah.
down his face.
I always think of Dennis Nedry in Jurassic
Yes.
Park when he's like wiping the inside of his glasses while he's driving the Jeep.
Yes.
And then look what happens to him. He gets eaten by a freaking Dilophosaurus.
Yep. And you wait, Keith, you're going to come out of your bedroom and boom, there's one. Just beware of it,
Yeah.
man. Because he's going to be sleeping down in the basement because
Yeah.
it's cooler.
Yeah.
That's where they live.
But even though he's not here, he still blessed us with a review.
He did.
And
We got, of course, a huge review.
yeah.
It's soared at the box office.
Oh,
it's going to be...
it's dropping bombs instead of bombing at the bomb. No, that was
I like
bad.
no,
I forget
that was good. It
That was
started out
bad.
great. It
I've
was
had
up there.
2 cigars and a cup of coffee. I'm starting to like.
Hey, we need it. We need all the energy because Keith hasn't graced us with his presence. We need extra energy.
Here, I'll do it.
Woo! That's exactly what Keith would do.
That's a Keith move.
That's it. That's straight up.
Keith, straight up.
And now Edie's even coming over to
She's
jump
coming
on
to
you.
Get on me now.
That's what she does.
So, what movie are we reviewing?
Of course, the big one on the block this week, this month and week. I don't. I can't speak.
Neither one of us can.
I just haven't had my coffee yet. Wow. The big one. Well, I guess it is probably the biggest one of the month of May.
Oh yeah.
No doubt.
Memorial Day weekend.
And it's been the biggest of Tom Cruise's career. But that is, of course, none other. No, bigger than that. Bigger than that in terms of debut.
Yeah.
This is the top, which granted inflation doesn't, it helps everybody's numbers in the short term.
Yeah.
But you just have less in your pocket. Anyways, that movie is none other than, yes, Top Gun Maverick.
Revving up your engine. Listen to her howl and roar. Metal under tension, begging you to touch and go. That's right, we're back on the highway to the danger zone. 36 years after the original film, Top Gun Maverick has arrived. Engines roaring to life, the boom of broken sound barriers, the rush of wind. Top Gun has grown to be a pop culture classic, a quintessential 80s film that combined action, romance, and a lot of heart, all to the beat of Kenny Loggins. Top Gun Maverick manages to fly right back into the danger zone without missing a single beat. Directed this time around by Joseph Kosinski, as original Top Gun director Tony Scott passed in 2012. Produced, of course, by Tom Cruise, with Jerry Bruckheimer returning, they are joined by Christopher McQuarrie, who also co-wrote the film. Picking up in real time some 30 years after the original, Maverick, again played by Tom Cruise, finds himself in hot water for once again playing by his own roles. He is sent back to Top Gun as punishment, this time, however, as an instructor tasked with training 12 hand-picked pilots, all the best in their class, for a dangerous mission with parameters no modern pilot has had to face. Amongst this class is Lieutenant Bradley Bradshaw, played by Miles Teller, callsign Rooster, the son of Maverick's deceased partner Goose. Rooster and Maverick come to heads over their past, and Maverick must find a way to give his students the conviction needed to fly their mission and survive. Top Gun Maverick is hands down one of the best modern sequels to a decade or older film I've seen. With Hollywood stuck on the current trend of creating modern sequels to older movies, many feel like cash grabs banking on cheap nostalgia, or otherwise carbon copies of their predecessors, including plot points only for the sake of nostalgia. If Top Gun Maverick commits any sins in this regard, it's that a lot of the framework of its story is the same as the original. Yet while the movie is built using the same bones as the first, Top Gun Maverick doesn't feel like a cheap gimmick or unnecessary addition. It actually has a fitting story worth telling. Characters are still themselves, but don't feel like caricatures or archetypes. Maverick is still Maverick, but he's a 30 years older Maverick, more seasoned with a cockiness he's now earned. Many new characters fit the mold of their predecessors, with Rooster filling the hole left by Goose, and newcomer Hangman being an obvious fill-in for Iceman. Likewise, there are scenes that are obvious callbacks to past scenes, such as the football on the beach scene taking the place of the original volleyball scene. Even certain plot beats fall in line with the original. Despite all of this, however, these things feel natural to the story, creating parallels between the two films that are intentional, as the crux of the story is built around Maverick and Rooster's relationship, and what happened to Goose in the past. The parallels offer us not just nostalgia, but a contrast of just how much has changed in Maverick's world these last 30 years. Simply put, it feels true to life. From the very start of the movie, Kosinski pulls you in, and you know you are watching a Top Gun film. One can see the care taken to bring this film to life, handling plot points such as Val Kilmer's Iceman, Rooster's past, the introduction of Penny Benjamin as played by Jennifer Connelly, and even Maverick's storied career and how he winds back at Top Gun with simplicity yet believability. The weakest point is the rhino in the room that Jennifer Connelly is obviously not Kelly McGillis, and those wanting answers on what happened to her character will be sorely disappointed. However, how they handle Penny's introduction and history with Maverick is fitting to the film. with the only downside being moments that are obvious nods to the first movie that don't quite land, since Connelly is not only an entirely different actress, but a different character, making callbacks to Maverick's romance in the first a little odd. Ultimately, Top Gun Maverick knows what it is and knows the story it set out to tell. It delivers in the spectacle and dogfights audiences expect to see, but it also delivers on the story, emotion, and heart. If there's one thing I loved most about Top Gun Maverick was how it matched so much of the heart of what made the original. 3.5 decades later, Top Gun Maverick is a worthy sequel to an iconic film. That's why I give Top Gun Maverick 3.5 stars.
Woo! 3.5 stars.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna be higher than Keith.
Oh,
'Cause
well,
I gave it 3.5.
I'm sorry. I was gonna turn that into a terrible pun.
Do
Like,
it.
No, I couldn't. I can't. It was gonna be like something. Can you take me higher? Is what I was gonna start saying. It was gonna be bad. It was gonna be real bad. I'm not. It's
Okay.
not worth it.
Well,
So let's continue on.
yeah, okay.
So
What did you
3.5.
think of it?
Oh, well, I thought it was a great movie. The 86 one, right? No, unfortunately, I was out of town this weekend.
Mhm.
I was at the lake down there at Kentucky Lake
Okay,
in Murray, Kentucky with my family.
Land Between the Lake.
Land between the lakes with no cell service. they are in the boonies. And I was hoping to see it. They have one little theater down there in Murray,
Mhm.
and I even screenshotted all the show times. For one, nobody in my family wanted to go see it with me.
Really?
But nah, I mean, I didn't really talk it up. Plus, I kind of knew it would have been one of those weird things where if I had went and seen it, none of them would have cared. They would have been going just to appease me.
Sure.
But I was gonna go Sunday night, and then the earliest showing or the latest showing they had was 7 p.m. We were eating dinner at that time, so I was like, I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go see it hopefully either tomorrow or next Sunday because there's not anything major coming out this week.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of a rough week next week trying to find something to review.
Yeah, we're gonna that's the main thing. We got to scrounge around for something that we can review next week.
Mhm.
But I will say I did rewatch the first movie in hopes of seeing this one just to refresh, my memory, and wanted to really partake in seeing this one. And I'm looking forward to it because that was the other thing. I'm pretty sure the theater down there did not have IMAX. And
No.
this just seems like this is one of those movies where this is you go and see this in the best fidelity
Yeah.
possible.
So supposedly there's a theater in Lexington that has the moving chairs.
Oh crap!
And they showed this movie with the chairs that move with the and I want to go do that.
I
But
didn't, man. That's
know-
like a freaking theme park.
I don't know
ride.
what the name of the theater was, but someone in my Sunday school class, they went and saw it in this theater.
Did they like it?
And they said it was spectacular with the chairs moving with the planes and stuff. So
I mean, look, I'm
just
good for
that's crazy.
a 15-minute ride at Kentucky Kingdom like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could sit through 2 hours.
Yeah.
Of
Now,
a movie
I
like that.
think it is only when there's certain scenes.
Okay.
But they mentioned that there's a motorcycle scene where the chair vibrates, and when he leans on the motorcycle to turn, the chair does shift.
It's like a PS5
So it's
haptic feedback.
Really freaking cool. I would love to see it that way because in IMAX you're holding on to the armrests regardless.
Yeah.
Because the airplane scenes, the jet scenes in this film are leaps and bounds better than the first. And the first was pretty good
for the
at
time.
the time. Yes,
Yeah.
it was. And I read an article that said that they paid $10,000 a day.
$11,000.
$11,000
Yes.
a day for these planes to
Yep.
rent the planes, and then
Insane. And they wouldn't let any of the crew fly them.
no,
They all were
No.
in the cockpit, but
No.
they weren't able to fly.
I have no doubt Tom Cruise could fly one. But I mean, he has a helicopter license. He has his pilot.
yeah.
I mean, he can fly anything.
Yep.
But yeah, I get it. And but again, to know that there's someone piloting those planes, they make him look like he is flying that plane.
Yeah.
It is legit. And the camera angles that they use in this movie really set the bar on any kind
That
of
was
aerial
my
shots
only
like that. It's
not
fantastic.
issue, but that was the one thing that I no doubt knew was going to stand above the original. And again, not to knock the original, you only had
so far in advancement in technology at the
Yeah.
time. But my gosh, like there was one extended scene they showed at right before Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And I thought it was okay. It wasn't amazing to me, but I also was like, I kind of don't want to see this just without context. I'd rather see this in the movie.
Sure.
Because I'm sure it's going to be even more spectacular within context. So, but I already kind of immediately was like, oh, this is going to be, you throw IMAX cameras on there.
Oh, yeah.
And you look at the original, it's like a night and day difference.
Yeah.
In terms of how they captured this.
Yep,
And you
absolutely.
saw, of course, in the review footage there and just within the trailers, it's insane how ridiculous the camera angles are from the dogfights.
Yeah, one of the things you'll notice from the first movie to this one is in the first film, anytime it shows him and Goose or anybody in the cockpit, you only ever see out the glass, you only ever see blue sky.
Yeah.
So, or maybe some clouds, because they're probably filming that in a fake cockpit. And I don't know, maybe they really flew, but in this one, like, you see the ground, you see the other planes out, almost touching wings. Like, a lot of the piloting is, I mean, the Navy, I'm sorry, Air Force, but the Navy has the best pilots. That's where you get your Blue Angels from anyway. Like, they have the best pilots. And it shows, like, they really showcase the air superiority of the U.S. Navy in this movie. It's a very pro-America movie, I felt like.
Yeah.
It doesn't go woke at any point in the movie.
That's what I've heard.
It actually kind of even jokes on some of the tropes that we see in a lot of other things.
Good.
So the one thing, it never names an enemy in the movie. You don't know if this is Russia or China or whoever. So they kind of hold the cards close to the chest on that. But it does give you kind of a showcase of the fact that we go in there with planes that we've been flying for 20 years, and we can still outman and outgun even these fifth-generation fighter pilots or fighter planes that the enemy is using.
Right.
So I overall, I agree with Keith's review. I give it 3.5 out of 4.
Wow.
Really, the half star came off for me because of the lack of depth that you get from the relationship with him and Jennifer Connelly. I felt like every other relationship with him and Miles Teller being Goose's son, the emotion and the backstory, you already have the backstory, but it repeats and shows you bits and pieces, these flashbacks, and kind of gives you a refresher on why that tension and that emotion is there.
Yep.
And then you also find out a new piece to that puzzle that has to do with Meg Ryan's character and so Goose's wife and the boy's mother.
Yeah.
So it kind of fills in a little bit of a blank there. But then you have this relationship with him and Jennifer that don't really. It kind of comes out of nowhere. You get a small grasp on they know each other from somewhere. He dated her in the past or whatever. And granted, there's been a lot of years there, but it doesn't do anything to explain where they met or how they met or when they dated, or you just know that they've been off and on over the years, and he's broken her heart a couple of times, and this time he might not. So it's kind of like it's just, I didn't feel like it was enough, and but
I'm at least glad, I will say, that they didn't, and I know a lot of rumblings on the internet about, they should have brought Kelly back, or they didn't because they're fat shaming, or, whatever other reason they can come up with.
Yeah.
And like, look, I don't know if they approached her or not. I don't care.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's one of those things where I'm glad that they didn't really address any of the drama that might have happened, because it is. It's been 30 plus years, and they do it in real time.
Yeah.
I mean, at least that's what Keith has told me.
Yeah.
But I also am glad that they just kind of drop you in the middle of things more so than they try to explain too deep. Or I would say, you can always tell when they're trying too hard. And one thing I've heard about this film that it does really well is it's a sequel without trying too hard to lean on nostalgia, even though it has plenty of nostalgic moments.
It has it there, but it's not needed.
And it also apparently does something with nostalgia in a way that it doesn't seem like it's just leaning heavily on it only so that you can say, oh, well, they just want all the fans from the first movie to come and see this.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing that I loved about the first film, rewatching it.
you do get a sense, and I'm glad you said it's not woke, because so often so many subtle, thinly veiled plot lines. I mean, hell, take Doctor Strange, for instance, with, America, that character in that movie wearing the LGBTQ pin. And of course, then they have like a side plot with her coming from a planet with only women and her having 2 mothers. But it's always like there's never anything more other than just, hey, check that off, check the box off.
Yep.
And the thing that I love going back to, whether it's old John Hughes films or the original Top Gun, or a lot of 80s films just had this, you build the characters and the scenery by just showing natural conversations with people, and by literally just letting these conversations showcase the characters' motivations. And I mean, even just take, like you said, Goose's wife, Meg Ryan, and her kid. They're not even in all of Top Gun, but the way Goose interacts with them and the way she interacts in just a few scenes with him and with Tom Cruise, and you just get a feel of camaraderie and friendship that's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's
They're
really
family.
well done. Exactly. And it's like, it's not hard to have that, as long as you cut through all the BS of, we got to check this box off because that's what gives us the point that everybody's going to agree with. And to me, it's just lazy writing. I think a lot of it just is just ways to, it's cheap, throwing you a cracker just to say, hey, all right, we threw that in there just to appease you, and now we know we're going to get a good review.
Yeah, well, it also goes to show you that when they do that, it's cheap, and it shows that I think it shows that they don't really believe it. If they're not going to give it the time and give it the depth to do it justice, then it shows that they don't really believe it. They're just, like you said, they're checking off a box.
Right.
And this movie doesn't do that. And in fact, I shared an article with you all about the bomber jacket and the patches.
Okay, I want to get there.
Okay, is that one of the headlines?
It's one of our headlines.
Okay, we'll wait.
And actually, it's funny because it kind of segues our review of this movie into our headlines.
Okay.
Because we talk about it soaring at the box office, which we've already hinted at.
Yeah.
So why don't we just transition?
That's cool. Let's go.
Let's get right into our headlines for this evening. Hey, you did it for you there, Keith.
That's just all I got.
That's
all I got.
You did it for our fellow who couldn't be here with us tonight.
That's right.
So yeah, let's talk about that. Not specifically that point. That's kind of the second point
Okay.
we wanted to bring up. But obviously the big one is just how massively successful this film has already started out to be. The biggest box office debut for Tom Cruise in his entire career. And I can't remember what the last movie was that they said was even just... It's the first movie in like a decade, I believe, that's crossed $100 million starring him. And I just think it's interesting because we've obviously had the last 6 months and ever since December when people were claiming that the failure of West Side Story and so many others that just were possibly getting overlooked was because people were still fearing the pandemic.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was completely absurd. Considering you had just had Spider-Man come out right before that completely destroyed the box office. And now here we are 6 months later, and yet again another box office. And you could even say, like we were alluding to with it not being woke, that's 2 huge box office like smashes from 2 major franchises that don't allude to any kind of woke behavior or wokeness within, inherent within it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think that's a pretty telling sign as to how popular I think these films can continue to be and how people want to go see movies without having some kind of political jargon and agenda shoved down their throat.
No, I completely agree. I think this is a different article, but I think Pirates, it may have been one of the Pirates films that was the second biggest that week. Because I know the one article that I read says
for Memorial Day
says
weekend.
a Johnny Depp opening was this one beat it.
That wouldn't surprise
me. For
the
opening. But yeah, you have Tom Cruise, the star of Mission Impossible, and all of these other films. I hate to say it, but after them doing such a good job with a Top Gun reboot, which one of the things I read today was them saying that a Top Gun 3 is on the table, but it's kind of it's they're letting this sit.
Well, and
they're not going to do anything immediately, but it is in the air.
Why do you think they're taking that route? I mean, do you think they have any reason as to why they may be playing it a little safe? Because at this point, I forget what the last movie was that we, what was it? We reviewed. We thought it was garbage, but it was so successful that it was already stamped like the day it came out that they're already doing another one. It was within our litany of previous reviews I'd have to look up. But yeah, why do you think?
I don't know. I mean, my thing with Tom Cruise is he's got the age on him, but he still does his own freaking stunts. And I really think he's got it in him to do another film like this. And I mean, the Mission Impossible trailer that I saw, which is a 2-part film, which I had no idea that it was going to be 2 parts.
I don't think anybody did.
That looks amazing. And I just feel like it's, he's not done. And if this movie has the success that it has, and it keeps rolling with it, which I think it's going to, because I think after Memorial Day weekend, with a lot of people out of town and going places with the family, I think they're going to get back and they're going to be like, oh yeah, Top Gun came out last weekend, let's go see it. And I think it's going to gain more traction. But
which is crazy because that's kind of the reason they brought it out on Memorial Day weekend to begin with.
Yeah,
was because they were hoping for that foot traffic.
I wanted it supposed to release in 2020. Well, Keith looked it up on the way out the theater. It was supposed to come out July of 2019.
Holy crap! It's been that long.
Then they moved it to May of 2020, and now here we are in May of 2022.
Right. Because 2020 with the pandemic.
Yeah,
I forgot they pushed it back.
So this movie's been ready for a long time, and I think people were waiting for it. This was a big movie that they were waiting for. As far as story goes, with a third film, I think again the first film sets this second one up really well for to exist, but a third film without I don't know. I think they can definitely. I want them to pull it off as good as this one was. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, okay, you brought this back after almost 40 years. Like, let's just leave it.
Yeah.
You did such a good job. Let's don't ruin it.
Well, I was going to say,
something else.
I think especially with how much positive word of mouth this has gotten, with how you handle, kind of to steal the phrase from Scream, the latest one, a requel, reboot, sequel.
Yeah.
So many have praised this is how you do nostalgia, but not overdo it.
Yeah.
And again, I can't wait to see it because of that positive buzz. But for me, I'm thinking in terms of, look, with everything else having the chatter of becoming a franchise, we don't need everything to be a freaking franchise.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm okay with you tapping back into something. Again, it seemed like everything just meshed with this. I mean, even hearing reports of how Tom Cruise did not want to originally do this film, I'm always fond of hearing people who say, look, no, that was for that decade, for that time period, let it be its own thing. And then somebody comes in and says, no, wait a sec, give us a chance. And if we sway you in terms of, the idea and we can get you on board, just give us a chance.
Yeah. Ghostbusters is a perfect example of that. You had them come back and try to do this reboot, and it got nothing to do with the all-female cast. It just sucked.
It was terrible.
Yes. But again, that was one of those films where all the main characters were like, I'm not doing this unless it's a good script. I don't know how they got Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray to come back for that Ghostbusters, what'd they call it? Answer the Call.
Yes.
Or whatever. I don't know how they got them to do that, but with them waiting and letting them look at the script and approve things in the script and help with that, like, that's why you get Afterlife, and it's such a great follow-up to the first two films. In fact, I think it almost bypasses the second film and just relies heavily on the first, which was the best anyway.
True.
And as long as they bring back an IP like this in that kind of a way where they really spend time on it, I'm okay with it. Star Wars, I like the newest trilogy, but I really don't. Even with all the years they had, I don't feel like they gave it enough time to really nail out a story that worked well and that wasn't just nostalgia, because that's what those movies they go over the top with the nostalgia.
Well, and they depend solely on the hype machine that is Star Wars.
That's true.
They depend on
Top
all
Gun's
of
a big. That was a huge movie when it came out. So
Yeah,
the hype is there, but it's a 30-year-old hype,
Exactly.
or a 36-year-old hype,
and
or
not
whatever.
to mention, I mean, you think about it in terms of how iconic it is for the time period it came out, and kind of what a career booster it was for even Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it's still funny to think that was only one movie.
Yep.
Like, and you still have.
It seemed like back then you only needed one movie.
Yes.
With the exception of Indiana Jones and things that can have multiple stories, multiple adventures,
Right.
to say. But, a film like Top Gun, Days of Thunder, another great Tom Cruise movie, only one film. Like, it didn't need a sequel.
Right.
And again, if they wanted to come back and put him in a NASCAR again, I'm okay with that as long as they
Days of
do it like
Thunder
this. Days of Thunder 2.
Only if he's racing
The
Ricky
Thunder
Bobby.
Rolls. I don't know what the hell they call it. But still, like, if they could, come up with a story and make it fit the way this film did, I'm all for it. And I'm all for a third one if they can, if they can keep that momentum. But I just don't know if I want to see a third one.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and it was funny because
indecisive right
you
now.
brought up how the first one definitely set it up great for this one. But, I mean, I would agree and disagree. I would agree in the sense, because I haven't seen this one yet,
Sure.
that you could easily catapult off of that one. But I would disagree in the sense that because I haven't seen this one, it ends in such a way that you don't need anything else.
No.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it's like him and Kelly McGillis go off and boom, that's it.
Yeah.
And he's done. And
Yeah.
that's, he's gotten the rank he wanted. He's gotten the respect, and it's like, hey, story's over. That's it.
Yep.
I like how they incorporated, because even Keith was telling me about how they tie Jennifer Connelly's character in from the first movie, as even though it was just a one little throwaway line.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that to me is the kind of care and attention to detail that you want to see when you're even touching a sequel.
Yeah.
Is, do they actually understand the original material, and are they faithful to it? And I think that's the other problem we have with so many of these reboots and sequels these days, is so often another trailer that dropped this past week, there was a crap ton.
Yeah.
With that, I forget, I don't know if it was strictly Disney or Star Wars or whatnot, but Willow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The series coming out to Disney Plus later this fall.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I haven't even seen the original.
Yeah.
I've only heard you and Keith hype it up.
Yeah.
And
Well,
as
it's a cult classic.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet, seeing the trailer and how they approach it, I was immediately like, holy crap, this is something that I kind of want to watch the original, and I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
And it felt the same way with this movie. I can't tell you how many times I saw the trailer because of how much it got pushed back, and I honestly just kept rolling my eyes because I was just tired of hearing about it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I'm hearing the word of mouth now that it's lived up to the hype.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like way too often people get caught up in the hype machine, and then they also get caught up in we got to throw in this agenda, and then what happens is either they go into they jump on the bandwagon of everything's got to be a franchise, and we're also going to take what you loved and we're going to completely turn it upside down on its head and make it into something that you don't even understand anymore.
Yeah.
But yet it's got the same name.
Yeah.
Like, that infuriates people.
Yeah. I really, actually, from the trailers, I thought they were doing this with Top Gun because, and you've seen the trailer 1,000 times, so there's a scene in the trailer where he's flying, like a supersonic space age looking plane towards the beginning, blows the roof off the guard shack and stuff, which that actually happened, and they didn't plan that. They destroyed a whole set.
Awesome.
That plane flies over in the shockwave or whatever
Everything
blew
just-
the roof off,
that's
and
freaking
that wasn't
amazing.
planned at all. But when I saw that, I was just like, oh my god! If they put him in like a spaceship or something in this movie, or make him like this, at the end of the movie he gets in this super special plane and goes off and does. I'm like, this is gonna ruin it. But the way they roll that in this film, towards the beginning of the film, making him like a test pilot with this stuff, like it was perfect. I mean, it was absolutely perfect. But I really thought from the trailer, I was like, man, they're gonna one up the first movie and put this guy in a freaking spaceship or something stupid. And they didn't. They stuck to the original thing, and even better towards the end of the film, there's another plane that's used, and it just takes you right back to the first film, and it's freaking amazing. But it's got a. Have you ever seen Behind Enemy Lines with Owen Wilson and Gene Hackman? It's a great movie. You should see it. But it even pulls a little bit of a story where it puts them on the ground and not just in a plane, and it was great. So they take you out of the plane for a little bit of the film, and it made it so good. But again, going back to whether they should roll into a third one or not, I don't know.
Just like kind of let it settle.
Just let it let it wait a few more years or something and see what happens.
And I think maybe that's another thing too is so many of these, like, again, after the MCU success, it's kind of this whole phenomenon of, well, once we strike gold, we got to keep milking it for all it's worth and run the rig dry, because if we don't, well, then now we're screwing ourselves out of more money down the road. And I'm like, no, actually, for some franchises, if you're going to make it, a franchise, it wouldn't be a bad idea to let things settle. I mean, granted, we're going to really see the test of this when Avatar comes out later in the year.
And Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah, they showed the first screenshot of that.
Yeah.
And, of course, it has to be a silhouette of Harrison Ford, because they don't show you all of the things that are holding his body up.
Yeah. Well, wires. He's got wires.
He's got like a skull suit holding his body the whole time.
Yeah.
He's crashed his plane like 3 times.
They need to hang that one up for sure.
See, that would have been good if he was in Top Gun.
Oh, my God.
But, oh, man, we can't put him in a plane.
Yeah.
We need to call Tom Cruise back. This guy can't pilot this.
Yeah. Yep.
Alrighty, guys. I think we've kind of talked about it. Oh, no, real quick.
Let's talk about the flag thing.
Yeah, because I think this is another reason why we need to show our love for this film and absolutely support it. No doubt. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, well, the article that I guess we're going to have that linked.
It's in the description below.
It's
when you see this posted tomorrow.
Yeah. So apparently, early on in the production, he has his bomber jacket. Not to give too much away, but he wears his bomber jacket from the first film in this movie. And when he pulls it out of his locker and wears it through part of this film, there's some patches that are on his jacket. And one of the patches is the Japanese flag. The other patch is the Taiwanese flag. And to make this movie releasable and to make more money in China, they originally intended to leave those patches off the jacket because that might offend China. So apparently it was one of Tom Cruise's voices and also some of the producers that said, no. This is part of the original film. In the 80s, when he wore this jacket, those were allies, and that was definitely part of the the Navy, and not part of our Navy, but it was something that they obviously had ties to, and it was like, no, we're not going to take those patches off just to appease China. So they ended up in releasing the film with those patches on the jacket. They were going to edit. They were just going to take the jacket scene out, and the fact that they didn't has actually held the release of this film up in China, and it may hold it up indefinitely.
Yep.
So we're kind of waiting to see how that's going to play out. But if it releases in China, it's going to make even more money.
And this is where I no doubt I agree.
Yeah.
But I think it will be suppressed. I think it will be censored. If anything, I think
they'll actually try to get them to edit it for release.
Oh, no doubt.
I hope that they don't.
And I agree. I hope the filmmakers, and I mean, honestly, if you have as public a voice as Tom Cruise standing firm, I don't think the company, the production studio, will have the ability to go back on their word and let the Chinese, or the Communist Party, censor it to the point where it won't release or it will release. And I hope that ends up they stay the course, because at the end of the day, that's another reason why I think we should support this film. And I think that really this is what's being called into question as we move forward throughout, I think, the rest of this 21st century, is when are you going to allow the morality of your culture and your society completely erode for the sake of another country's economic boom, just for your short-term gain, but ultimately the complete erosion of your culture and society,
Yeah.
your country.
Yeah.
And absolutely, I think we should stand firm with all of those nations, just like we're doing in throwing our support behind Ukraine
Yeah.
against Russia, and especially under the threat. I think I read an article just today that Communist China flew the largest fleet of aircraft they had over Taiwanese airspace and broke the Taiwanese airspace.
Mhm.
So the fact that they're pushing,
Pushing that boundary.
they're pushing that boundary. They're playing with fire, trying to show their might.
Mm-hmm.
We need to push back in every way possible. And for this movie to be simply, you think it's something simple, but again, this is where it starts. The battle is on the cultural field. That the cultural warfare that is going on, that's where the battle has to stay, and that's where you have to fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
It's not about just, politicians in Washington or any other form of world government that are out there trying to pull the strings behind it. The way you fight that is by culturally turning people's, opinions on certain matters and
Yep.
issues, changing their hearts and their minds there.
Yep.
And I think I'm going to go not only support this film for that reason, but of course just because, so many good. I've checked out the Rotten Tomato score because I had to post it online.
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I've just seen
It's up there.
It's
Was it
it's way up there.
89 or?
Oh,
is
it's like
is it
96
now. Yeah. Okay.
96, and audience score is like 98.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
People are loving this.
Yep. I'll say too, real quick. There was a post in the movie talk Facebook group that we kind of follow and post things in, and these guys were talking about how they believed, and it's this completely speculation, but they actually went to the trouble of pulling up pictures of Chinese fighter jets, and they showed pictures from one of the trailers where it shows one of these fighter jets. And they're like, that's the same plane. So they are actually speculating that originally China was going to be
The enemy?
a named enemy, and then that possibly they just decided to go ahead and just make it an unnamed enemy as part of that not to offend kind of thing. And it's not something that's new. There was a remake of a great 80s film called Red Dawn.
Yep.
And the remake was terrible, but in the remake, it was going to be communist China
Yep.
that invaded America.
They made it North
made
Korea.
it North Korea because at the time, North Korea was somebody that we weren't kowtowing to. And they were like a solid threat, and it was like, well, we can do that, and who cares if they let us.
Right. Well, and we
release the
already know
movie.
they're going
Yeah,
to
they're not
censor
gonna
the
do
hell
it.
out of us anyway.
Right.
So they're not.
So they changed it from China to
They-
North
yeah.
Korea.
Yeah.
And so it's not the first time we've seen stuff like this, but at least, if there is this little glimmer of somebody taking a stand, I'm all for it. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the more films that do that are going to have success like this.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing is yeah, exactly. It's what market do you want to depend on? And you could think that they're always going to go for the sure thing if China, but honestly, look, Marvel movies may continue to have the best bang for your dollar as far as, that investment.
Yeah.
So be it, but it's like I still don't think the power culturally is with the Chinese market to set that precedent.
No.
It's still primarily going to hinge on does it catch on here? And I still think we're at the forefront. I think that could change if we
Yeah.
make terrible, drastic changes in our own culture
Oh, yeah.
and don't fight back. Like we try to do every week here on the Red Moon Podcast.
That's right.
Uh,
I mean, when you're making a film about the American military might,
yes.
it shouldn't cater to China.
No.
it should be for us.
Exactly. And
It's
and again,
showing our strength.
you don't think
and
it was
our-
strategic that they put it on Memorial Day?
Absolutely.
So that's another thing that I'm also glad that they kind of didn't, abandon that, that kind of fight, that vigor that they had in the first movie
Yep.
of holding up our American military might.
Yep.
In terms, because honestly, that's the thing. I was watching the first one, and I'm like, throughout parts of it, I'm just sitting here thinking, this is a glorification of not only our might as a country, but the technological advances and the amazing things these heroes do when they
Yeah.
go and they fight, for our country.
Well, I think it's amazing that both films just show the teaching and the training
Yeah.
of the U.S. Navy. Like, it's not until the very end of the first film that they have any kind of an encounter with an actual enemy. Everything up
Right.
until that
It's all
point is
training.
just them at Top Gun at the school.
Yep.
And this film is similar. It's very similar. It has to do with training for a mission. But again, it shows the intense training
Yes.
that our fighter pilots go through, and the technology that it takes to land a plane on a ship, and all this stuff. There's a scene in the movie where the landing gear's broke, and they freaking land this plane on a ship with no landing gear, and a net catches them, and that's a legit thing. I had to look it up. They literally do that. They can catch a freaking plane
amazing.
that's coming in at
Well, I mean,
hundreds of miles
hell,
an hour.
Just seeing a damn plane, a fighter jet taking off from a huge aircraft carrier
Yes.
in the middle of the ocean
Yes.
is amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's insane.
It's
and
awesome.
I'm just like that's what I love. I love that this movie is unabashedly about, yes, we have these like little scuffles that are going on. You know, that's kind of the whole heart of, you know, between Goose and Maverick's character, you know,
Yeah.
they're quarreling. But ultimately it's like the things that they're ultimately trying to achieve of being the best fighter pilot, it still does nothing but stand to benefit the might and power and the light that I think America is to the world.
Yeah.
And what we can be. And I think that's the other thing that I'm hopeful about in watching this and cheering it on and its success is we do need that as a country. We need these movies every once in a while to rally behind. I mean, look, I'm not opposed to movies that want to take critical looks at our country and things that have been, you know, black spots on our and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I hate that so often that becomes the focal point, especially when you don't do the same thing and magnifying the lens on other people and other countries and the things that they've done, the atrocities they've created. Well, because, you know, that's the funny thing is like, you do so much time, extensively focusing on America's wrongdoing. And it's like the reason you don't care about other countries' wrongdoing is because, you don't care about those other countries as much. And you don't realize how impactful America is in general on the world stage and how much actual good it's done. And I think we need movies to focus on that every once in a while. And I'm glad that hearing from you and Keith, it seems like this movie definitely does that.
Yep.
So I hope and, you know, I'm glad. I can't wait to see it, and I'm glad for its success.
All right.
All right. Moving on to not the second headline you see on your notes there. Kind of skipping over that. I just want to briefly talk about, sadly, we had a passing this past week of Ray Liotta, passing at 67 years old. Very young. And absolutely, completely, I think, threw everybody by surprise. Unexpected completely. Died in his sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think the article I leaked to, I'm not sure if they've come out with any more statements as to the cause of his death. Obviously, you've got to think it's health issues because 67 is just too young.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Even in the latest thing he was in was he was in Amazon's show Hannah. You know, that was a movie, and I think it's based on a book series. But he was in the series on Amazon, which is very good. But he plays one of the higher ups in the CIA. That's kind of a bad guy, and he looks terrible. Like, I mean,
really?
just age and health wise, he looked really bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there was anything playing on that. And then of course he was in the Netflix. What was it? The 3-hour Scorsese film.
Oh,
what was that?
The Irishman?
The Irishman.
Yeah.
Wasn't Ray Liotta in that?
I don't think so.
I thought he was.
If he was, then I just don't remember him, sadly. I know it because he was in, everybody knows him from Goodfellas.
Yeah.
But he might have been in that.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. But I know in that show, that was the most recent thing from about a year ago. And, man, he looked bad. So I don't know.
I don't either. I'm looking up right now to see what his, if he was in The Irishman. I don't know. Obviously, yeah, you know, everybody knows him from Goodfellas. But let me see here. Oh, yeah, it does have Hannah on here. Well, and that was actually the Many Saints of Newark that just came out. He was in that.
Okay.
That's
the one about
he was in
Sopranos.
Hubie Halloween. I forgot he was in Hubie Halloween.
Who did he play in that?
He was I think he was the main. Was he the main baddie? I don't remember. Crap.
I don't know.
I'm looking at the poster now to try to see if I can
see
pick
on
him
there.
out. But he was the principal, I think, of the school or something.
Oh.
I can't. Yeah, I do remember
Okay.
that. because I thought he was
I hope they
freaking
make another
hilarious.
one of those. To be honest,
I actually do too. It really wasn't that
that
bad
could
a
use a
movie.
sequel.
It was pretty funny. He was in Marriage Story. I forgot about that. That was a good movie. Good indie flick. That's out on Netflix.
Yeah.
Well, and that was based on the article that I linked to. No, I don't think he was in.
He wasn't in that.
He wasn't
I
in
was
The
wrong on that
Irishman.
one. I know he was in Field of Dreams. He played Shoeless Joe Jackson in that movie
Yeah.
with.
What?
Crap.
Trying to look it up.
I'm trying to think of the. I'm drawing a blank here. Kevin Costner. Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's in Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny because the article that I linked to specifically was talking about how he was on kind of a resurgence. That, obviously he, went through, I guess, years of, I don't know why he fell off the map. But really, it's like he's only been recently popping up in newer things
Mhm.
as of late in the last few years, and it was nice to kind of see him as a return because everybody knew him as that standout role in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
I remember, I want to say he was the voice in GTA Vice City when that came out. He did forgetting the character's name, but he was the lead in Vice City when that first dropped. And I don't know, it's sad because I think for someone like that, especially who you get your start so late in acting, then you kind of have a decline, and then you have like a resurgence, like you're coming back.
Yeah.
And then for it to just kind of health issues or whatever it might have been take you out.
Yeah.
It's very sad to see, a career that I think could have easily landed him back in the good graces of Hollywood, kind of a resurgence path like Robert Downey Jr.
Oh,
I no doubt think he had that kind of talent.
Yeah.
And it's really sad to see that we're not going to see many years to come with work that Ray Liotta could have delivered.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, very shocking and just out of nowhere. Nobody expected that and saw that coming. I think we're now ready though to
Are we ready?
finally end our show with a unique weekly segment. You know what that unique weekly segment is, Sean?
Relationships.
Whoa! Let's talk about relationships.
Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above and a thing called love.
Love. Let's talk about love, people.
Okay.
Let's
What's
talk
the
about-
topic?
It's not about love. It's about loneliness.
Oh gosh. Wow.
Yeah. I don't. Did you read the?
I just now did.
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
just
we're
wanted to hear you say it.
we're lonely tonight because
Yeah, it's
our
very
good-
fitting. I'm lonely on this side of the table.
our good friend Mr. Cheatham got a star there with a shirt.
Yeah.
He'll be back next week, guys. We hope.
Oh, he
The
will.
Indians always have a chance of
He
taking
will.
him. You never know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I strictly just wanted to talk about. I don't know if we've ever talked about this subject. We may have and kind of talked around it and
Okay.
brought it up with other discussions.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was really kind of like, do you ever encounter loneliness and how do you deal with it?
When you know Jesus, you're never alone.
I knew it was coming.
No,
Honestly, no. I was gonna go there.
that's serious for sure. I do. I think the question is, it relates to that, of course. But then I will just say, outside of a relationship with God, yes, there's many times in my life when I've been lonely, and it's really funny because sometimes you can even be lonely with other people in the room. It's sometimes you're lonely in thought, or a belief, or a feeling, or whatever. It doesn't have to be like you're not around another person, because there's been many a time, especially at work, when I've felt alone, because I'm around a lot of people that don't necessarily agree with whether it's religious belief or political thoughts or anything like
that's
that. So
actually really
it's
good.
I've felt alone a lot there, and even I'll be honest with you, you'll know someday, but even in marriage you can feel a little bit alone because maybe your significant other doesn't feel the same way you do at that time, and you feel like you're just the only one that feels that way. So it's loneliness is part of the human condition, and we're all going to deal with it, and how we deal with it, I think, is what really matters. And your second part of the question is, how do you deal with it? That's a harder question to answer because for me, there's times when I've felt lonely, and sometimes just keeping your mouth shut and being quiet and just being okay with the fact that you're alone and accepting that is a way to deal with it. Other times I pray so that I don't feel alone. I'm talking to him, and I know he's listening.
Yeah.
And
No doubt.
and then the other side of that would be to, put yourself in an uncomfortable situation to not be alone. Sometimes you kind of like have to break out of a comfort zone so that you're not alone. But what about you?
It's funny, even kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, breaking a cycle of loneliness.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's weird. I think we've all kind of inherently talked about it at one point on the show before, about how we are all kind of, we're all comfortable around each other, but out and about, it's like I'm more introverted than I can maybe sometimes have an extroverted day here and there, or if I need to for whatever purpose to interact with other people, but it drains me. And it's like I need days where I'm just kind of by myself and letting my batteries recharge to kind of still be that perky and be that type of person around other people. And so it's in those moments that I don't want to say, again, I agree with you. It's like being alone doesn't necessarily mean loneliness.
Yeah.
It can, no doubt. But like you even pointed out, and I think that was absolutely true, is you can be in a room with tons of people and still feel lonely.
Yeah.
Especially when they don't have the same points of view or perspective. And I think not only do we all encounter that, it is how do you deal with it? And of course, going back to exactly what you stated, which is prayer. Honestly, it is breaking that cycle sometimes of realizing that God has put people in my life, maybe even for particular times and particular instances, so that I'm not lonely. It's kind of one of those things where he's, you're spiritually being fed, and absolutely, I think prayer is important, but I think too often we will go and seek for answers in prayer and think being completely alone and isolated will help us be more connected to God. And it's like, no. Sometimes God wants you out and about with other people who are in the same bouts of either depression or loneliness.
Yeah.
Simply not only to aid them, but to aid yourself, because in that isolation, you can easily be swayed into thinking something is from the Father when really it's from, the anti-Father, the Antichrist, the devil. And I think in those moments, no doubt, he can distort certain things that you believe are coming from God and make you feel more isolated and make you think that isolation's even more of what you need. And I don't think that necessarily helps either.
Yep. We were creatures that were made to communicate, and we're made to be in a community with other people. And that's, he knew Adam was alone, and he created a companion. So it's very much the same for everyone. I think everybody is happier when they're with other people. But again, other people also have the tendency to kind of make you feel alone. What about times when you like to be alone? Like you said, that you have your introverted days, like where you're
no doubt.
Yeah, I remember those days when I was single. but
part
now
of it you can kind of tell. I don't know if she's come here, pup. It's like when I have
you're
a
not
dog,
alone.
she's just laying there.
there.
She's keeping me alone.
She's like,
let him be.
Yeah.
No. And it's funny because I did get a dog, a year ago.
Yeah.
And part of that reason was because even though I, as you alluded to, it's like I hope to find somebody someday and get married, and I do want a family. Part of that is, the drive and the condition of wanting not only to cure that loneliness and build a life with somebody, but it's also a calling of like, hey, that's kind of what I feel like we're also created to do, is to spread that, that seed and I know let it go, let it out in the wild. But I do think that that's another thing that too many people overlook, is it seems somewhat, overrated. And I'm like, no, I see other people's complications in their relationships or their families, and I'm like, I actually look forward to someday having that.
Yeah.
I probably won't in the moment when I deal with it.
Sure.
But I think far too often people look at, maybe whether they're in marriages or relationships, and they're like, man, I wish I could be single again. And I'm like, no, I've spent plenty of years being single.
I don't think you wish you were single again, but there's definitely
you could do your own thing.
Yeah, there's definitely time that you want some me kind of time.
And I think that's important.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've actually felt, there's been times when I've felt kind of selfish about that. Like, it's like, why would I want to be away from my wife or my kids or whatever? But it's like a really good example just this weekend. And we said we might talk about what we did Memorial Day weekend. So
No, bring that in.
Just bring it in. But I went camping with some other couples and their kids and stuff from church. And while we were there, like the kids, they one of the guys, he took some of the kids away and took them on a walk and stuff, and let everybody else just sit around and have adult talk and all that stuff. And while they were out there, they found a turtle, and they brought the turtle back, and the kids were playing with it and stuff. Well, before we were getting ready to leave, he's like, we're gonna take this turtle back to where we found it. And the kids were like, oh, can I go with you, or can I go with And I remember the guy said, he goes, no, I'll take it. You stay and the kids pressed it. They wanted to go. And he goes, no, I'm gonna take it by myself and have my own time.
Yeah.
And just that brief, 15 or 20 minutes that he walked this turtle back and dropped it off, I was just like, wow, that's something that I would love to do and not feel guilty or selfish about. And it's like, I'm not the only one that wants to just, no, I've been around all these people. I think I'm gonna go just take a walk by myself.
Yes, absolutely.
And I loved that. I was just like, man, it was refreshing to see someone else, appreciate just a few moments, to do his own thing. He said, I want to go walk and enjoy the nature and drop this turtle off. And no doubt he spent a few minutes, in his thoughts and prayers even, and I really respected that from him. So it's like I definitely feel like loneliness can also be a good thing sometimes.
Absolutely. Because again, and as we've already expressed, it's like you're not truly alone.
True.
And
right.
I mean, no doubt in my mind, I'm gonna absolutely admit to you need to be in communion with God. You need to have those moments where you're prayerfully talking to Him. A lot of times at night, there's times now even. It could be at night before I go to bed. It could be just honestly walking throughout my house, whether it's down the hallway, pacing back and forth and mulling over things. And I'll admit this, it's weird, but I think most people do it anyway. But, I talk to myself all the time.
Yeah.
And I honestly view it as not talking to myself, but talking to God.
Listening,
because I feel like, it's kind of getting things off my chest without having that other person there. And, I agree. It's like I look forward to sharing those thoughts with somebody that I love someday that I'm building a life with, because no doubt, who you choose to build your life with. And, it's so funny how I think the position that I used to hold for finding the one was thinking I was going to meet this person and they were going to have to check off all these boxes. And as I've gotten older, I've realized how much of it is, no. Part of them becoming the one is the life you build with them. It's not this crap of I'm waiting for the right one.
Yeah.
It's, okay, you have to have certain foundational issues that are non-compromising. Like I've said on the show before, it's like, they've got to be a Christian, conservative, and want kids. It's like those are three pretty critical pillars.
Yeah.
And so many of the other things are kind of, we can debate to a certain degree. But it's like, ultimately, you're not going to find this perfect person out there of who you're waiting on. And so many of the memories And I think you can maybe attest to this with even, you and Amelia have been married for what, 12, 13 years now?
15.
15 years.
Yeah,
Gosh.
in a week.
In a week, 15
Yeah.
years. And so in 15 years of marriage, it's like, obviously the things you know about her in year 15 probably don't even aren't nearly what you knew in year 1, probably even when you were dating.
Yeah.
It's like all those aggregated years of just living and breathing life together and having 2 children together and raising a family together have no doubt brought forth times of trial and tribulation.
Yeah.
But at the same time have grown you even closer because of that and the storms you have weathered.
Yeah, you don't make it 15 years without that.
Right.
Without the going through it and coming out on the other end.
Right.
So, no doubt.
No doubt. And I think ultimately for me it's I look forward to that. But it was like, okay, in my time of waiting, I got a dog. But
Yeah.
I even tell my parents all the time, we joke around whenever it's like Father's Day comes up and we celebrate with my brother-in-law and my brother and my dad. And they're like, well, we joke around, well, you have a dog. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Does your dog get you something
It's
for
like,
Father's Day?
Yeah. She throws up on the carpet.
Get you diarrhea.
She just does that any day. Like every day's Father's Day. Just poops in the house. But no, I think it's funny because I'm not one of those that I don't equate having a dog to being a father. It's not the
You're
same
not a
thing.
dog dad?
Nah. I loathe that term.
Dog dad. Dog
Dogs are not the same
Nope.
as children. They are
No.
not. And
They
I
can
love
teach you
my
some
pup.
responsibility. But,
Absolutely.
But not in
And,
nothing in
and
comparison.
one of the things that I enjoy, I will say, it's like when I get a notification at work and it's like I know there's movement in my kitchen.
Yeah.
And I know she's up from one. I got to tune in to see what the hell she's doing.
Yeah.
Because it could be tearing up something.
Could be.
But it is nice to come home and there's a happy little pup that is waiting and wagging their tail to see
Yep.
you. And it is nice and it's it's comforting to
No,
have that
it
at home.
is, yeah.
It's not completely isolated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she doesn't substitute for
That's right.
a child or having a wife.
Yeah, exactly.
So I told my parents when I got her, I was like, don't worry.
Don't call me a dog dad.
And don't worry, I'm finding Mrs. Right still.
That's right.
She's still out
It's
there.
funny, though, that you got a female dog.
Well, I grew up with a female dog. They're easier. in
No,
my
I
eyes.
agree. I agree.
To an extent.
I think
Well, because you got
the
Lando.
one girl dog we had, she had attitude and she was stubborn as freaking everything.
And she is too.
But she was nowhere near as wild as the male dog. So I will say that as wild as your dog is, she is actually starting to calm down. I think mine's still got like 3 or 4 more years before he's
Well,
going to
everybody
chill.
who I talk to tells me that when I tell her she's only like a year and a half, they're like, "Oh, wait till she's 3, then that's when it'll start to settle."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, she's kind of getting into a routine." But that's another thing that I think will be interesting is when I do get married. It's like
She'll settle down too eventually.
and it. Well, hey,
3 or 4 years, she'll settle down.
Hey, I've told you on the show. It's like order, abuse.
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll get me a lot of points.
That
from
will.
a lot of females out there.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh man.
Good deal.
Yep.
So, how does everybody out there deal with loneliness?
I don't know. What can they if they wanted to tell us, how would they do that?
I'm pretty sure they could email us,
Yeah.
and we do that every single week. We throw that out on the show.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know what that email is?
I do.
Why don't you tell everybody?
It's wait a minute, I forgot.
RMPodcast.
redmoonproductions.com.
Nailed it. RMPodcast.
I can't do it as good as Keith.
He's got that
Can
low.
he call in and do it real quick?
That'd be great if he could.
I don't think he's going to.
If he starts, if my phone
He's not
starts
even.
ringing,
I don't think
I'll
he's
hook
watching.
it up.
I don't even know if he's watching.
He's dead
I have
asleep.
not got a comment or nothing from him.
He probably was gonna go downstairs in the basement, and he probably crashed upstairs because it's so freaking hot.
Yeah.
And he's probably just crashed out on the couch up there.
You're probably right.
Dogs licking in his mouth and everything. He's got 2 dogs.
Oh, one on each side. Just
Just going at him,
Yep.
keeping him cool.
yep.
Right there at the bottom of your screen, RM Podcast at redmoonproductions.com. And also at the bottom of your screen, Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Pics. Follow us on all of our social media. Like, share, subscribe, and search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube to find our page there. Thank you all so much for tuning in this week. And, of course, follow us on our social because we'll have to let you know what we're going to review next week.
We'll come up with something.
We got there's something out there streaming.
That's true.
I mean, you'll
There's
be
a
done with
lot out there streaming.
You'll be done with Stranger Things by then. Everybody who's binging it,
I don't
you'll
know,
be
man. I
finished.
heard some bad things about it. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it.
I'm gonna rewatch everything because
I got to start over. I have no idea what's going on in that
Agreed.
show.
I pretty much remember the first season.
Yeah, after season.
But season 2, I only watched like 2 episodes and I stopped.
I'm with you.
I need to
Let's start over together so we don't have to go it alone.
Cure that loneliness. That's
All
one
right.
thing you can do together.
That's right.
Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and he'll be back with us next week, Mr. Cheadle.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.